wonderful live here and right here, all right here.
Sure that let me see, share now, and then how do I watch live? Is this it? Is this the watch party? Share, watch party. Okay, and I'll say watch with me and comment. So y'all need to comment a little bit. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you something. Okay, I've been on this computer for, what time is it now? 8:00 p.m. I've been on this computer since 6:30 this morning. Okay, I worked from home today because I had a long day. I had some stuff after class that I had to work on. I had some meetings, still running multiple magazines, just trying to make those work. It's funny. People, they talk about me and they go, "Oh, this guy's like profiting off these magazines." You know how much money I put into these magazines to, to try to, make them profitable? No, I am not. I'm absolutely not. What's it called? Profiting from these magazines. So if you're in the watch party, I'll share your comments with you today. I really, you might catch a different vibe from me this evening, and maybe it's been different over the past couple of weeks. I'm making some pretty substantial and some pretty significant changes in my life. If you're just joining us, this is WGSN-DB Going Solo Radio. I'm your host of The Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. And we're talking today about, just kind of what, kind of just what to expect, right? Like what to expect when you leave a relationship, the leveling up, as well as talking about your partners afterwards. Do you do it? How do you do it? What does it say about you? Okay. And I want to start with, so I just realized how I can share this thing a little bit better. I want to start with a serious conversation. We'll have some laughs later. I want to start with a serious conversation. For years, I thought about, I don't know, writing an apology note to some folks regarding previous relationships. I find that an apology note doesn't solve anything for the person you're writing it to. It typically solves your own Oh, we back on? Sorry about that. So,
Sorry.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
All right, I'll go down.
Hey, we're having trouble. Can you hear?
I can hear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You know, I'm gonna stay up and just make you in front. See if that
Okay.
helps.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. God, what a wild day today, huh? Trying to have like a serious conversation, and now he's not our friend. Can you hear everything now, Cece?
Yes.
Okay, cool. It could be the Wi-Fi. I don't know. I have so many devices. I've got like 3 laptops, an iPad, 2 cell phones. It's an addiction. I don't care what anybody says. It's an addiction, and it's pretty serious. So if you're just joining, this is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. Sorry for the technical issues. This is The Barbershop. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. We were talking a little bit about what to say and what not to say after a relationship and how to kind of level yourself up. And, you know, I wanted to address this topic seriously. And I thought the best way to address the topic, to be honest, was to talk a little bit about what I think was a pretty serious mistake that I made a couple of years back. You know, I'm still learning. We're all still learning. And I own a couple of magazines and I own a couple of blogs, and I'm trying to give ownership to some of my employees and kind of step back and work on some other stuff that I feel passionate about. Not really work on body positive stuff. Not that I'm not body positive, but I feel that there are other voices that can be highlighted. And if you notice a different vibe from me over the past couple of weeks, it's because I'm making some significant changes in my life. And one of the things that I realized was a few years back, I wrote an article that I thought was going to hit, and it did. It went viral. I've written 4 or 5 articles in my life that have gone fairly viral. One was about Tess Holliday and how we actually, in my opinion, we actually, not that we give her too much credit, we give her too much power in the fat community because, and fat's a good word in my book, she's not the only influencer out there. And people, oh, she's good, she's bad, she's this, she's that. Okay, everyone just relax, right? Like, there's a lot that, you know, we can work on and a lot that we all need to work on. By the way, Tess, if you're listening, I'm single, and I heard you are as well. I'm just saying. But I heard she's taking some time for herself, and so am I. Another article that I wrote that hit was How Bold Magazine Started. Just kind of a thought process behind that. And this other article that hit was a big deal. It was called, I can't say in case this gets played on the air in Florida and on iHeartRadio, it was called How I Was an A-Hole and What I Did to Fix It. And the response that I got back was, you're still kind of an a-hole. And the reason was that, and it went viral because I acknowledged a lot of things that I had done wrong, and then talked about the things that I would do to change that if I had those relationships back, and how I kind of evolved. The part that still made me an a-hole was the disclosure of intimate details about specific people. And as much as I tried to group folks together or make them vague, you could definitely figure out who they were. I also shared photos of me in couple shots, which legally you're allowed to do, ethically probably not a great idea. Well, within an hour, I got ripped apart. I changed the article immediately. I deleted photos of me and partners, whether they asked for it or not. And I just made that decision. Nothing could erase what I had done. And like I said, I think about it almost, if not weekly, sometimes twice a week. I would love to write an apology to those folks, but I don't know if the apology would be for me, if it would be for them. I would imagine that some folks have put everything behind them and they're doing fine and they're good, you know? So what I learned from that experience, you'll note now, even in my show, everything I do is an amalgam, right? I do not talk about specific instances in my relationships, from my relationships, I typically talk about the lessons that I've learned. And what I typically find in those lessons are the failures that I've had, not the failures that that person has had, right? And I think that that makes for a much more sound and just better story. Now, there are a lot of folks who are afraid of doing this because they feel as though they're going to make themselves look bad. They're going to make themselves look like a failure. And I have to caution you against that way of thinking because you've already failed if you think that way. Telling stories about how your exes were crazy, how other people did stupid things, about how it was all their fault and how yada, yada, yada. Now, this is not what my article is about, but just in general, says a heck of a lot more about you than it would ever say about the people you're talking about. And that is an absolute fact. So I would absolutely urge you to be as cautious as possible when having those conversations. So I looked up a couple of articles that I wanted to kind of reference as we were just kind of chatting about what to say and what not to say during your relationship, about your previous relationship, and also like kind of how to level up. And I've been thinking about this for weeks now, absolute weeks now, because I thought to myself, well, how do I, people, I've had this question. If you listened to my last show a couple of weeks ago, somebody said, "Oh, no wonder you're single," because I couldn't tell her the province that she lived in Canada. Okay, because she goes, "Oh, you're a doctor, you should know those things." And this has happened to me multiple times. I'm not talking about one person being rude. It was rude. Okay, and I thought to myself, do people think that way? Do people really think that because you're single at 35, there must be something wrong with you, right? Well, I've been married. I was also engaged a second time. I've had long-lasting relationships. I think I found at least one soulmate in my life. But I thought to myself, do you need to explain to people why you are single? Is that something that you need to do? If you need to do it, there's a couple of things wrong, in my opinion. One, there's something wrong with the way you're thinking. Because having to explain yourself to somebody is not the way you should start off a relationship. Number two, if they are asking that level of question, how come you've been single this long? Why are you single? What's going on? There's likely something wrong with them and the way they're thinking. Okay? There are 1,001 reasons in which why somebody can be single. You don't need to badmouth someone to justify your singularity and your singleness. What you do need is to understand your journey and to level yourself up before you engage with someone. And I thought about this and I thought, well, what's going to happen is people are going to get tired of not getting the answer they want and they're going to leave. And I guess the answer that I came to was, let them leave. We're so hyper-focused on making connections quickly. Let me ask you a rhetorical question, or you can come on and you can give me some answers. I see some folks in the chat. Y'all can talk in the chat. I would love to read some of your stories, because a second part of this conversation is going to be, what are the funniest things you've heard about yourself? Okay? But we are so hyper-focused on building a quick connection strongly. And somebody I despise in a community that I used to hang out in said about people we know, said somebody who asks for loyalty fast has something up their sleeve. And I kind of agreed with them. I don't really like the guy. I agree with that. Trying to make a quick connection strong and fast is almost never going to work. And I can attest to this because if you know anything about my history in multiple communities, you know that the catastrophic event that happened to me a little over 20 months ago destroyed almost every single relationship I had that was made quickly. The people who were around in my circle stayed in my circle after that. The people that I've known since 3rd grade, 5th grade, 1st grade, high school, college, never went anywhere, never thought about going anywhere, stayed put, right? So the question becomes not, well, what do we talk about and how do I explain that I've been single for X amount of years? The question becomes, if I'm going to level up with this person, if I'm going to level up myself in my soul and in my heart and in my brain, how do I slowly make a connection that's going to last? One thing, so I am not really in the active dating pool right now that much. I mean, I am very clear about, I talk to a couple of folks and that's fine. And I'm very clear about who I'm talking to and that I'm talking, and that what comes with things will come of things. And I'm very clear about the fact that, I've had kind of uncomfortable conversations that my life tomorrow is a black hole. It is dark. I don't know what it looks like. I can't picture myself in it. Not to say that I'm going anywhere, but I can't picture myself in it. I certainly can't picture someone else in it. You follow, right? So I've been down with that conversation for a long time. And to caveat that, I've also had the conversation of, let's take things slowly. And I don't mean let's take things slowly like, let's wait 3 years before I give you a title and invite you to see my parents. Let's have sex tonight. No, that's not taking things slowly. That's taking things your way. Especially as a man, we're constantly picked on and talked about because that's typically the thing we do. And I have some news for you. They're right, women, when they say that. A hetero male who does that, because it's typically a hetero male. Well, I don't know. I don't date gay men because I'm not a gay man, so I don't know. In my experience and with my friends, they're all about intimacy on the physical level and not on the emotional, spiritual, economical level. I want to know what your credit score is, bro. Like, tell me what your credit score is before we get to date 10, because I want to buy a home with you and I need to know what that stuff is, right? So we're on this path, and we tell people we don't know what our life looks like, and yet we want to force this physical relationship or force this fake intimacy where we're staying up late nights talking at 2 a.m. Because it all stems from this constant need to tell people that we are amazing soulmates. We are the person you need to be loyal to. Make a quick connection with me. I'm worth it. And we get defensive and upset when they don't want to. We try to come up and conjure up a way to let them know why we've been single. And so it all leads to, I've done this for 18 minutes now to tell you, what it leads to is us telling a very different story about past relationships than actually happened. Because it's the only way to tell it. Because if we were to tell it the way we want to tell it, or the way we should tell it, the way I have been telling it now for quite some time, because and even when I was an a-hole a couple years ago, I still told the story sometimes, most of the time this way. When I wanted to write the article, I said something different. But when somebody says, why didn't it work out with your ex-wife? Why didn't it work out with your ex-fiance? Why didn't it work out with your ex-soulmate? Somebody that I think is great. I typically say, everyone has their flaws. My insecurity led to this. Everyone has their flaws. My impatience led to this. We were not the right people. I think I was too young. And let me tell you why we're afraid to say that. We're afraid to say that because we don't want the person on the other side of the table when we're out to dinner or out to coffee or out for a beer or whatever to think anything less of us, right? Let me tell you something. First of all, they see every flaw you haven't pointed out yet. Okay? They see them because we're skeptical beings, number one. Okay? Number two, what you're about to do in bad-mouthing an ex amplifies everything you don't want them to see. It does not hide a damn thing. Can I say damn? I didn't say a-hole, but can I say damn? It doesn't hide a damn thing. It's 20 minutes on the hour. If you're new to this show, I want to welcome you. I want to let you know that we typically run the show for about 45 to 50 minutes. We're going to take about 15 seconds or so to fill in our gaps for sponsors. You're going to see me with dead silence. When we come back, we're going to talk about some funny stuff. Feel free to comment. I want to hear from you. I love hearing from our radio folks and our folks on the air. So let me know and let's do that. But you're going to see our head down for about 15 seconds. I'll be right with you. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host of The Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. We'll see you soon. Okay, and we're back. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. I see some folks are joining from all different circles of life. We are talking about what to say and not to say about a previous relationship, what it does for you, how it makes you look like a fool if you say the wrong things, and how to level up your next relationship. And I started by telling a pretty, tough story for me to tell about my level of arrogance and how I just used to say nasty things. And I never named names, and I never got specific. But even in my vagueness, you would think that I was a moron, because the things that I would say about other people, even in my vagueness, sounded crummy. You'll note over the past year or so of doing the show, I really don't talk about specifics, unless it's a stranger who insults me in my inbox like last week, which I did say, whatever. Pot calling the kettle black here. Why? What good is it to not say that? Well, we think we're doing ourselves a service by pointing out the flaws in other people. What we are is showing people how mean we are. What we are is we're doing that thing where we're really nice to the person across the table, but we're a jerk to the waiter or waitress and tipping them less, right? How you treat someone else is how you're going to treat me. So we started the show off with me, kind of issuing a semi-apology. I can't really, unfortunately, go back and apologize to those folks. I don't think that they'd receive it kindly, and I would if I could. I would. I absolutely would. I think it would do more harm than good. And I think it would do more good for me than it would do for them. But I want to talk a bit about leveling up. And we ended the last break on a quick understanding that the reason we do these things is because we're looking for a fast connection. We're looking for a quick, top-notch, amazing connection fast. If you follow business at all, okay, you can do things quickly and for a good price, but they won't be made well. You can do things that are made well and quickly, but they're going to be for a high price. You can do things that are made well for a low price, but it's not going to be fast, right? You can only do 2 out of the 3. It's the same thing with relationships. I'm not going to establish an amazing relationship with someone quickly. Not going to happen. So bad-mouthing 15 other people so that I can make good with this person, not the best way to do it. In fact, we see this in other things as well. We see this in communities that I've been in and events that I've gone to. We see it in all the social. I know friends who blew up on social media like I have in the past and could really care less about. And they go, oh, these are my best friends. How long have you known these people? 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Let me explain something to you. These are your best acquaintances. Because I've seen it time and time again. When stuff hits the fan, those people out you like you've never been outed before in a way that will hurt you like you've never seen. And they will dispel all of your secrets and tell people things that you never want to be told. Okay? And we did the same thing to get into their good graces. So who really is the wrong person here? So we've gone through about 25 minutes or so of doing the wrong stuff. And I want to get to some of your comments in a second. Start thinking about it now, because I'm going to tell you how to level up in a second. But what I'd really like you to know, or what I'd really like to know from you, is I'd like to hear from y'all, okay? What are some things that got back to you in the rumor mill that are the funniest things that you ever heard? Put them in the comment section. Put them in put them in the chat party. The question of the day is, what are some things that have gotten back to you from an ex back in the rumor mill that are the funniest? And I'll tell you some of my funny ones as well. But before we get into that, I want to jump into I really want to jump into, if we're not going to badmouth people and we're not like, what do we do to level up, right? Well, there's a couple things. I had an article pulled up about, just like kind of what it says about us when we speak about an ex. The first thing, I will say this: I have tended to date some, I don't know, kind of like higher profile people, I guess you would say. I don't even know what you call them. Okay. And I would say, whatever, models and actresses and influencers and all that jazz. This kind of stuff doesn't impress me anymore. My next connection, which will hopefully be my most final connection, will be somebody who honestly just absolutely is the most genuine person. I don't care if they're homeless. I don't care if they sell pet rocks. I really don't. So I see a comment from Megan. We'll bring that up in a second. But these are some things that actually the Good Men Project says. I'm going to go through a few of them. We don't have time for all of them. They say girlfriends are not therapists. I'm going to skip that one because that's pretty like guy 101. The relationship becomes a threesome. Discussing an ex all the time creates a love triangle where this invisible person, your ex, is now in some weird psychic way insinuated into your relationship. I love it. And then the next thing they say is it drives comparisons. Okay, that I absolutely love. You do not want to be driving comparisons. It is an awful thing to do. I actually didn't realize I was doing it. And then when I realized I was doing it, I didn't care. Because I was driving comparisons to people who were so attractive in my world that I didn't want somebody to feel inferior, but I wanted people to know that I had dated superior people. I've come to realize over the past year that I'm an attractive human being. I swear to God, I had no idea. I'm telling you, I've had the worst body dysmorphia, the worst things happen in my life up here, where I had no idea I was an attractive person. I kid you not. One day, recent, I looked in the mirror. I looked up. I was mouth washing. And I looked up in the mirror and I go, shoot, man, you're hot, dude. That's what I said to myself. Dad bod and all, I'm hot. Beard, not even shave. I go, you're hot, man. That was the first time in my life, 35 years old, where I looked at myself one time and said I was attractive. Having people who are in movies, fashion shows, whatever, say that I'm an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10. I literally didn't believe them. I would repeat it and didn't believe them. And so to show people that I was attractive, I made sure everyone knew that I had dated high profile people and this is who they were. And then when they asked why it didn't work out, I blamed them, right? What kind of a person would you want? Would you really want to date that person? And yet it worked because you saw past it. Maybe I'm that pretty. I don't know. That is the wrong person to date. It is the absolute wrong person to date. Now, did I go into details? No. I just said that didn't work out. Blah, blah, blah. And I did a lot of times take the blame as well. I want to say that. I also took the blame a lot as well. Here's the better way to do it. Take the blame completely. Or here's a great way to answer that question. When someone says, why didn't it work? That's between me and them. And that's okay. And over the past 18 to 20 months, 24 months, that's been how I've been answering that question. Even longer, that's been how I've been answering that question. And it tends to work out pretty well. People will know that you're serious. They'll know that you're exclusive. They'll know that you mean well. They'll know that their thoughts and feelings and hopes and dreams are safe with you. And they'll know that you're a good person. I like this other one too. They say that oversharing, this is the Good Men Project, oversharing will tend to emasculate you. If months into the relationship, you're still complaining about your ex's wrongdoings, you haven't fixed yourself. You haven't done the things that you're ready to do. Your partner will question if your relationship ready, which is absolutely fine to question because they may not be. They're still talking about their ex, right? Negative energy begets negative energy, right? And it's boring. So these are a couple of reasons that I think the Good Men Project had a great article here. So I think that, when you're on that page, you just tend to stick there. And the book reads that way and everything reads that way. And it's terrible. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. I mean, anybody who's watched this show knows that I usually use amalgams all the time. I don't tend to talk about my exes very often, but I have been in that situation where I have. I'm going to say that I've done it, okay? I'll say a good 1/5 of the time at my worst, okay? That's 1/5 more than ever should have happened. Because the right answer is, number one, all my fault. Take the blame. If that person is so nearsighted that you're on the other side of the table with, that they truly think your failures were the failures of the relationship, they're naive and they're waiting for perfection. Okay, they're looking for a reason to fail, for it to fail. Okay, everybody knows that a relationship fails when two people don't make it work. Okay, number two, if you overtake the blame, it puts you in a position where you have room to grow. Let me explain this. If you go on a date and you say you're not getting any better, that's the best it's going to look. That's it, right? And maybe you're a great person, and that's cool. But if you don't have a growth mindset, what am I working with here? Guy, girl, body, gender neutral, I don't care who you are. You tell me you have no room for growth, I have no room for you. And I truly mean that. I don't care if you are the most beautiful human on the planet, you've got an IQ of 300, and you're a billionaire. I don't care. You've got room to grow. How do you treat your dog? Can you make sushi? Do you eat sushi? Are you afraid of heights? I want to know these things because I want to see how we mesh, right? Are you rude to people, right? Don't ever tell me you have no room to grow, right? And lastly, if the people on the other side of the equation think that, you know, you're not changing and there's you know, these things failed because of you or didn't fail because of you or whatever, it is only a matter of time before the failures that you are hiding come back into this relationship, because A, you're not trying to change it, and B, we're creatures of habit, right? So sure, you can go and change a couple things, but some things are going to pop up. You're going to have a pattern that changes, that goes back into, you know, you're going to make mistakes that you're going to need to apologize for, or fix or clean up or whatever. Why hide it, right? Like, why hide that, you know? Like, for me, I'll give you a couple of things that people can't stand about me, okay? I tend to get into a very kind of condescending attitude way when I educate. If somebody has a question that I know a lot about and whatever, I tend to sound condescending. I just love to teach things, okay? If I tell you I'm not condescending, I'm lying to you, okay? I'm working on it, but I'm lying to you, okay? That's one thing that is super obnoxious about me, okay? Number two, my spending habits. I used to make a crap ton of money, and now I'm an educator, so I don't make it. It's something I need to work on, okay? Number three, I'm a binger. I love overeating. It's like one of my favorite things to do, okay? So like, I see red sometimes. I still, once a month, I'm going to binge, okay? I'm trying really hard to work on these things. If I tell you these things aren't true about me, don't believe it, right? If I try to hide it, don't believe it, right? And so these are things, you know, when you understand and you level up and you've got a growth mindset, these things will come out slowly, because I'm not asking for your loyalty tomorrow. I'm not asking for your respect tomorrow. I'm not even asking for your you know, for your hand to go on a date. I'm just asking to get to know you, right? And so as we engage and we learn and we grow in these relationships, it's going to be fine. We're going to figure these things out, right? So I'm going to start, and then I see Megan commented here. I don't have too many comments yet, but hopefully you all comment. Here are some funny things that I've heard about myself that I think are hysterical. Number one is I've heard that I'm a feeder, which is kind of a fetishy term in the plus size world. I'm Italian. I tend to make a lot of food, and I tend to get not offended, but I'm going to question if you've eaten enough at any given point of our relationship. I heal with food. I eat when I'm happy. I eat when I'm sad. I eat when I'm depressed. I eat when I'm celebrating. I eat when I'm in trouble for something. I eat. I was in a relationship once. I'm not going to give a lot of specifics, but we were not a good pair. And I was very overly anxious. And when they got anxious with me, when they had things going on in their lives that drove the anxiety in me, I would go and get food. And I remember it was a pretty drastic, traumatic kind of thing that was happening in their lives. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know. So I'm literally eating, I swear to God, we're in bed and I'm eating a meatball sub, chicken parm. And we're sitting on the couch. I don't know where we were, to be honest. We were sitting comfortable in a position, and they were freaking out about something, and I'm freaking out with them. And I'm eating a chicken parm sub going, I don't know. Is there something we can do? figure this out, like this is bad, right? So that's how I heal, and it's how I grow, and it's how I learn. I love food. You want to get me to pay attention to you, cook me a dish, show me how to cook something, take me to a restaurant I've never been to. Absolutely. So I heard I was a feeder. A couple of other things that I have heard. I have heard that I represent myself as super wealthy, and I'm not. No, I'm cheap. So I've made a lot of money in my life. I don't spend it. And I'm very, very upfront about that. So those are two of the funny things that I've heard. I've got Megan on one of the chats says, the only funny thing I have ever heard was that the breakup was mutual. Other than that, nothing. In other words, what she's saying is she heard the breakup was mutual, but she definitely broke up with that person. I think that's fair. I don't know. There have been relationships that have ended for me that seemed mutual, but I was really hoping that they would end. I was just in a bad place with that person. There have been relationships that have been ended on their side that I was also hoping would end. And on the other, I think there's at least one or two relationships, pretty serious ones, that I ended that I think they wanted to end and kind of made end. So I couldn't, if somebody said how did that end, I would say what I say, and what I say is we weren't meant for each other. It wasn't the right time, and I'm sorry that it ended, or I'm not sorry that it ended, or whatever. And this is something that I'm not too concerned about, because they're not the right person for me, and I wish them well. And there are some people that I don't wish well, to be honest. But here we are. I'll still say that I wish them well, and I'll still probably outwardly wish them well. But in the back of my head, people that you don't want to wish well probably don't need your well wishes. They're probably going to screw things up anyway. So I don't think you need to worry about that. So we've gone over things in past relationships. If you have some comments, I see a lot of people in the chats. Feel free to put some funny stories about yourself in the chats. I love the memes that are like, when you hear a rumor about yourself and you go, what did I do next? I've been in that situation. What did I do next? What did I say? I mean, my message has been misconstrued at least 50 times in my life. And I attribute that to, I'm an educator, I need to communicate better. But there are some people who just, when tactic A doesn't work, tactic B, they'll go down the alphabet and make sure that they work on the other things. And the reality is that there's some truth to every flaw that you have, right? So they're going to tell a great story, right? I get talked about a lot on the web, and I used to talk a lot about folks too. And I do. I think that it says more about the person talking than the person being talked about. 100%. So in my particular circle, in my particular place, I tend not to talk about people. I'll tend to just say that's between me and them. Just didn't work out, whatever. So how do you, so here's the question, right? Here begs the question. We've attributed the way we talk about our exes to the fact that, and this is my theory. I've got 18 computers open. I probably should see if somebody else has some research on this, but this is my theory. My theory is that we are looking for a reason to explain why we've been single. And therefore, the first thing we jump to is, well, it didn't work because X, Y, and Z. This person was a bad person. This person was blah, blah, blah. Now, look, if somebody was abusing you, yeah, I mean, you could say it, right? They were abusive, right? But be sure. I mean, we tend to overuse some of those words, right? I was in a situation where I felt somebody was emotionally abusive, and so I got defensive, and they said my words were abusive. Okay. Were we both abusive? Maybe. Were we both arguing? It depends. I'm not sure. So make sure before you use a word like that that's really the word, right? Rebecca says attribution and self-bias. Yes, we tell a story very differently than may have happened, right? And I agree with that. But I think that you're always, always, always going to be in a better situation when you are taking the blame. Look, not taking the blame for something you darn well didn't do, right? Like if somebody said you're abusive and you weren't, or if somebody said that, we tend to use the word narcissistic too often. People can have narcissistic tendencies without being a narcissist. So, it depends. But there's no harm in saying that, when we screw up, say, yeah, I screwed that one up. I was young. I was stupid. I made a mistake. And I've had people drop that conversation when I've said it, because they probably are thinking he'll make that mistake again. And maybe I would. I'm hoping I don't. by recognizing first and then changing my actions, right? Victoria says, also I found when on a date and a guy inquires about exes and what happened, they're open in the conversation to look for validation on his past behavior. Definitely. Ooh, I like that. Keep going on that. I would like to hear more about that. I'm going to say that one more time. Also, I found out on a date when a guy inquires about exes and what happened, they're opening the conversation to look for validation on his past behavior. Definitely not okay. I'm trying to think ways in which that is you. I get it. I get it theoretically, but like I would love to hear an example. If you can give me an example on that, Victoria, I would definitely appreciate that. But the bottom line is, if you are over this relationship, first of all, if you're not over that relationship, don't rebound. And if you are rebounding, be clear that it's a rebound. Hey, just gotten over a relationship, looking to have some fun. Make sure your actions match your words. Make sure your words match your thoughts. And make sure you're clear about those things. Now, if somebody falls for you and you've been clear and you've done everything clearly, then it's a little bit on them. Let them account for their own feelings, right? But when it's time, truly time to engage in a relationship, you should not be thinking about that other person other than I learned X, Y, and Z. I changed A, B, and C. I'm ready for levels 1, 2, and 3. That's where you should be. And when you're done with those thought processes, engaging with somebody else, I don't see a need to bring in that person into this threesome that we're having of my attribution of my failure, their issues, and now this third person to A, give me the validation that I need to move forward. No, that comes from within. B, prove to me that the relationship should have ended. That should happen before I go on a date. And 3, try to let them know that I'm great and perfect. Also not true. So what's your problem? Let them come to that conclusion of your flaws and who you are and figure it out. You know, it kind of goes back to this kind of conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, in my opinion, about, you know, thinking that people are disposable and that we don't go through the process of, sorry, my t-shirt's not, I wanted to wear a t-shirt that meant something today. I'm wearing my Laughed Out Comedy Festival. It's a queer comedy festival t-shirt. I am not queer, but I'm an ally for sure. And I just thought if you're going to wear a t-shirt with something on it, it should be something that at least says something. I didn't want to wear a button up. It's hot. And I'm like, I'm in this chair for 14 hours teaching and writing and God knows what else. Just working. So the point that I'm making is that, you know, we think of these people in front of ourselves, we think of these people in front of the table as disposable, which goes back to the last show we had, right? Why do we think people are disposable? Well, because we could swipe and go on another thing. I will tell you, I am doing 2 things lately that to me epitomize my own growth and I'm really happy about. Number 1, I am not competing for anybody's attention because I'm not on any dating apps right now. There are a ton of attractive people out there who apparently think that they want to talk to me, and that's fine with me. That's fine with me. If you've got more than 50,000 followers or whatever, and you think that I'm going to compete with 49,999 people for your attention, I have some really bad news for you. Okay, you should go find that quick love that you're looking for. Okay, and when you're done, 5 years from now, and you figure out it's all bogus and it's complete crap, I wish you the best of luck. I will hopefully be with my soulmate. Okay, so that's number 1. And there's nothing wrong with that. I had to learn that the hard way. Okay, number 2, I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt and I'm looking within, right? I'm looking within those people to see genuine hearts, minds, souls. Okay, because you can learn a lot from people, not about what they're posting on social media or how much money they have or the degrees they have or whatever. Listen to how somebody talks to their dog, right? Listen to how somebody talks about their families, if their families and them are in good standing. Listen to how they treat somebody else's child in a grocery store, right? Listen to how somebody acts in traffic. These are the kinds of things that I'm putting my weight into because those are the situations I'm going to be in every single day. I'm not going to be on the internet garnering 150,000 followers. I'm not going to be on a radio show being some sort of weird celebrity, right? I'm not going to be in a situation day in and day out that's false, right? I'm going to be in these daily situations, right? Think about the process that they go through when the traffic doesn't count, says Ashley. All right, fair enough. I did yell at somebody in traffic the other day because they were literally behind my car in the parking lot, and I couldn't get out. And I'm like honking at them, and they're not. I swear to God, if they move 16 millimeters, I swear to God. And I just sat in the space. I said, I'm just going to hang out here until you freaking move your car because I got nowhere to be, you know? So those are the situations in which we want to be. So the whole point of this conversation, if I've said anything tonight, I feel like I black out some nights. Learn from the mistakes that you've had. And you want to look at mistakes. If you're just joining the show, rewind. Okay, I am the king of making mistakes, and I'd like to think that I'm the king of now, owning up to a lot of those. Where I used to be the jester, the joker. If I'm saying anything tonight, and I thank you all for hanging out with me tonight and listening to my weird ranting and rambling. I can't wait to, I think I'm delirious. I'm gonna have a glass of wine and go to sleep. We tend to do this thing where we attribute our failures to someone else in very many situations, okay? And the reality is that it says a lot more about us. It says that we're afraid of our own failure. It says that we're afraid of accountability. It says that we are not perfect and think that we're going to fool somebody into thinking that we are. And it says that we care more about appearance than actuality. We care more about the perception than the reality of these situations. And it's just not the case. I'm going to close. Bethany's got a quick something to say, and then I want to close with one study that I always attribute to, and then I'll let you all go. Bethany says, sometimes people that you thought would be disposable to you end up being a good friend weeks, months, even years later. I fully agree on looking at all of someone before deciding if they will have a place in your life. Absolutely. I think that we tend to look at somebody. I met somebody the other night who one of his tenants 30 years ago became his wife after he was widowed. She lived in his home in a spare room 30 years ago, and then they were married 30 years later. I'm going to end with this study that I usually tell in my business classes. I think it's very applicable here, and then I'm going to let you all go. They did a study of Fortune 500 CEOs, okay? Fortune 500 CEOs say that typically after a down quarter, they studied two things, okay? One CEO gets in front of the podium. I'm not going to tell you who would do this, but we tend to watch him on the news at least almost once a day. They get on the news and they say, everything that happened wasn't my fault. See, there was this thing that happened. It was a natural disaster. I don't know what happened, blah, blah. It wasn't my fault. And then, we, blame, 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 blame. And that's why the quarter was down. Okay? The second CEO gets up on the podium and they say, here's what went down. This is why we had a down quarter. You see, we thought X, Y, and Z was going to happen. Revenues creeped up this way. We didn't get the sale over here. This company over here did blah, 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 blah. I want to tell you what we've learned. We've learned 1, 2, and 3. We've made the changes over in this 1, 2, and 3 areas. We moved in this direction. And I predict that and they don't predict an up quarter. They say, I predict that we have learned this, this, and this, and these are the changes that we're going to make. Let me tell you something about both of those stocks. The person who attributes all of the failure to someone else, stocks dip down tremendously. It takes a long time for them to rise back up. The person who takes accountability, the Fortune 500 CEO that takes accountability for their actions and for their mistake, moves the stock up the next day, because what somebody says is, if I recognize the screw up and I know how to fix it, I want to put my money into this person now while it's early and we're at a lower level of lower rate. So I can predict this guy's, or girls, excuse me. Unfortunately, we don't have that many female CEOs in Fortune 500 places, and we should. I want to ride this person's coattail to the top of that stock. With that, I want to thank y'all. I know we had some technical difficulties in the beginning, and I apologize for that. And I thank y'all for being with me. Thank you all for your levels of participation. We got a lot of chat towards the end. I think y'all rock. I think you're amazing. I hope I didn't get too personal. I myself am somebody who is very big on accountability in my own way. And it's not something that I hide. And I think that if we want to grow as people, and we want to grow, especially in the way that we are right now with COVID, where everything's hypersensitive, the first place we need to look is here before we look there. Thank you all for joining WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. I am your host of The Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. Hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying well. Hope you're staying accountable. And I hope you're making those connections slowly, securely, and what's best for you. Bye now.